Ladies and gentlemen, we continue the agenda. It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome to this GFCC summit Adonis Georgiadis, the Minister of Investments and Development. He is also the Vice President of the New Democracy ruling party. Previously, as Simos said, he was the Minister of Health, I think Minister of Mercantile Marine as well, a member of the Greek Parliament since 2007. And I must tell you that many say in this town that the Minister is one of the strongest political leaders of this country, with an even greater role in the Greek politics in the years to come. Please join me to welcome the Minister on the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are very welcome to our country, dear Simos. Thank you for the invitation. Mr. Tsomokos, dear Simeon, thank you for your kind words. I never predict the future. The future belongs to the prophets, and I'm not one. We are dealing with day-by-day crises and problems, and we're trying to solve as much of them we can. The rest is a matter of history. And I'm very honored being with you today here to say some words about the Greek economy, where we stand, and what competitiveness means, and what we have done in this area in our country in the recent years. You all know that 2010 in Greece started a huge debt crisis in the beginning, that in the process became a real economic crisis, that questioned the role of our country into the Eurozone and to the European Union. Brexit was one of the most famous words of the recent 10 years in the world media. And whenever I was traveling abroad and I was watching the news, in almost every channel there was one bad news for Greece. And I will tell you a short story. When I was first elected, Mr. Hadjinikolaou, close friend of mine, many years now, and thank you for the good cooperation with Piraeus Bank and with the union when you were the president. I was always feeling as a young member of the parliament that I was going abroad and the news had nothing about Greece, and I was sad about it. Suddenly, Greece was first news. But this was a very wrong idea. It was the first time in my life I realized the English proverb, no news, good news. So we managed very hard, and the Greek people had huge sacrifices and a lot of suffer in order to manage to sustain ourselves and stay into the core of European Union. This was not an easy way, I have to tell you. Reforms had to be made, cutting budget. You mentioned my term in the Ministry of Health. It was one very difficult job because I had to reduce the expenditure by 2 billion per year from the 9 billion. As a percentage, it was a huge cut of budget in a very sensitive area as the health. So you can imagine the social tension that this caused at that time. But I'm very proud for the Greek people that at the end our society managed to be united, sustain ourselves, and to stand where we stand today. And where we are today, when our government was first elected in July 2019, Greece was in the process of exiting of all this crisis. And a good momentum and a good feeling was around the country and around Europe that a pro-business and pro-reformist government was elected, and that the years that would follow would be good years for Greece. My first month in the ministry was really marvelous. I was super happy. We were doing reforms, and we're trying to increase our competitiveness and change the business environment. My first statement as a minister was that the mandate we had from the people and from the Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, was to transform Greece as the most business-friendly country of the European Union and we had started the process of reforming and reducing bureaucracy and cutting taxation in order to achieve that goal. Unfortunately, one guy in Wuhan had a strange flu. This traveled through the borders, and in the early 2020, COVID-19 pandemic started. Since then, we didn't have until today an ordinary, normal day in our shift. We had several crises in a row, others more local between Greece and Turkey, and the tension and the migration flu that Mr. Erdogan used against Europe through the Greek borders. Others world as pandemic COVID-19 or the invasion of Mr. Putin in Ukraine, the inflation that came after, the energy crisis, the supply chains that is disrupted, and whatever we live today. In the beginning of COVID-19, the first predictions from the IMF and from the European authorities was that the Greek economy would be almost destroyed in 2020, mostly because we were the economy of European Union that was not most dependent from tourism. And everybody realized that when no planes were flying, tourism was dead. So they had calculated that Greece in 2019 had almost 20% of our GDP from tourism, so they had originally predicted IMF 20% recession and European Union in the beginning 15% recession and then 12% recession. We worked as hard as we could, and in 2020, at the end, we had -9. It looks huge, but in reality, it was a small success under context of 2020. We managed to be the country that opened our tourist season more than any other European country in 2020. We managed to handle COVID-19 with a very efficient way in the beginning. We managed to have this vaccination certificate as our proposal to European authorities. In the beginning, it was not a popular proposal. Then all the other European countries followed, and this permitted a lot of people to travel under the pandemic crisis, and a lot of them in Greece. And with all these reforms and effort, we had a much better performance than the original prediction for 2020. I was saying at that time that this was the first result of the reforming effort of the government that even under the pandemic hasn't stopped at all. In 2021, we had a full U-turn in our economy. Greece had one of the best performances in European Union. We had an increase of our GDP by 8.1%. We almost reduced the damage of 2020 in 2021. And for the first time, we had a significant increase of our exports. The exports of 2021 was, for the first time in our history, more than 40 billion euro, almost double than the value of our exports in 2010, when the crisis had started. And I was saying at that time that all the reforms we had done in the previous period has started to pay off, and our competitiveness has started to come back in a more strong way. I'm very proud that even under the pandemic crisis of 2021, Greece had our highest, until that time, history record in FDIs. We were over 7.5 billion overall. And we had our best performance of investments overall of the recent 30 years. And with this spirit, again, with very good will and faith to the efforts we were doing, we entered 2022, and we were sure that as pandemic would slow down, our economy would start to run. Unfortunately, on the 24th of February, it's a little bit strange, end of February, COVID came in Greece in 2020, end of February of 22, Mr. Putin decided to invade Ukraine. And the war and the energy crisis and the inflation became one part of our everyday life. I'm very proud, I can announce you today, that even though our original predictions for 2022 in our budget was of an increase of our GDP of 3.1%, now we are running with a predictions of 5.2%, but it will be increased. I can predict with a big safety that we will be around 6% and maybe a little bit more, to be honest. I'm sure you know that in the first 6 months of 2022, our GDP increased almost 7.8%, and all the months that followed had also a very big increase of our GDP, much more from all the predictions we had. This year, Greece's economy runs with 3 records, a triple record high. We have our record high in investments and FDIs. We are even better of 2021. In FDIs, we are already, and we are in the middle of November, higher than 2021, that it was our all-time record. And overall, the investments indicator shows that 2022 we will have our all-time high in investments. This is something that was particularly referred to the statement of the Eurogroup and of the institution that monitoring our economy as a big success and as an indicator and a proof that the growth in Greece is more sustainable than in the past. The second record is about exports. I told you that in 2021, for the first time in our history, we had 40 billion exports. Now, we are over 47 billion, and it wouldn't be a full surprise if we would reach the level of 50 billion until the end of this year. It's huge U-turn of our economy. A lot of our industries, a lot of our agriculture products, and a lot of our services found their way in world markets in a very competitive way. And this gives us a real pride, to be honest, about the achievements our people, our business community is doing. And the third record is the all-time high of tourist revenues. I think we are the only European country that in 2022 we will have more revenues than 2019, which was the all-time record for all European tourist countries ever in history. This, I think, is a result of a very comprehensive strategy the government followed the recent 3 years. First, by dealing with COVID, as I mentioned before, and rebranding Greece's name abroad as a tourist destination. And second, by changing our tourist model, attracting more serious foreign tourist chains that are already come and investing now in Greece in a very massive way, Four Seasons, One and Only, Amanzoe, and various others that they were not before, and they came all these 3 years, and through them attracting tourists with higher income that per person they are spending a lot more money than before. In 2019, per person it was an average spending of 540 euros. In 2021, for 2022, I don't have the figures yet, it was over 720. So all this together shows an image of a much different Greece. I'm very proud that 2 weeks ago, in the Economist indicator about the business environment in the globe, Greece had the best performance throughout all the countries of the world. In the first place, second was UAE, in the improvement of our position from 2019 to 2021 in the business environment. We were upscaled by 16 seats. Of course, we have started very low, I have to mention that. Greece was almost a communist country some years ago. All leftist ideas and closed markets and protection of all profession was in the core of our economy. These are the things we're rapidly change as fast as we can and are starting to pay off. We have voted a lot of laws with the strong cooperation of the World Bank of reducing bureaucracy in various sectors. Now we have the fastest way of establishing a business throughout the European Union through your phone. We have almost digitalized oral public sector, and you can find whatever you need from the public sector from your phone through GovGR. Even the investment law or the use of the European funding, ESPA, can be monitoring from your phone because everything is totally digital now, and any investor can see where the process of his application is and how many days is in front in order to have his final approved. And I don't want to show everything ideal, it's not. And we have a government that we are monitoring very close all the investments, and we try to solve problems. I always say to foreign investors, dear Simeon, that when they come to my office and I give them my card with my cell phone, that I am something like a doctor. The best news would be that I would never be needed, and I would just invite in the opening ceremony of their investment to celebrate and take the credit. But unfortunately, most often, they would need my services. But the good news is that they will find the service of the government on a 24-hour basis to solve in good faith problems. Problems always occur, even in the best countries in the world. For me, the important thing is to show to the investors that you respect other people's time and money. You recognize that choosing your country to make an investment is a responsibility for the government, and from the successes of the investor and the profit they have, more investors will come, and the good name of the country will be even more strong. We worked very hard to reverse the bad story Greece name had in the past. We are in the middle way, to be honest. There are a lot to be done in front in our second term. You know that we are very close of exiting from the crisis by having a final grade in order to be able to borrow money as an ordinary AAA European country. We are very close to that. We have already upscaled 6 times during our terms, and the final movement is in front. Of course, the war and the inflation put some challenges in front. I have to be very honest on that. But as the Chinese always say, you know that in China the sign of crisis and opportunity is the same, because at the end is how you will deal with it. Our government is trying, even in this crisis, to deal it as an opportunity. I will tell you 2 examples only, not to tire you. In the energy sector, we have accelerated our effort to produce renewable energy. We're on a very good track now. We're the 8th country in the planet in producing renewable energy. Our national goal officially was to produce 20 gigawatt until 2030 from renewable energy, I mean solar and wind. We know now that with the licensing we've given and the project they are being constructed, we will reach this goal between March and August of 2024, 6 years earlier. I'm very proud because during my term, one big foreign investor, EDPR from Portugal, managed to have their license for a huge windmill park in Evia in 6 months. This is the fastest licensing procedure in the European Union by far, and I'm very proud of that. And our national goal will change to 30 gigabyte until 2030. We think it is a reachable goal, even though we have the bottleneck of the grid that puts some limits in front. But this will give Greece the opportunity to be a country that will export energy to European markets, and we will reverse a huge competitive disadvantage that we had in the recent years, and it was the energy prices, from a disadvantage to an advantage, because now renewable energy is not only clean, it's much cheaper. So this is a vision we have in front, and of course, in the new environment of the disrupted supply chains, and in the new idea that you have to diversify your sources in order to be more secure, Greece and the good location we have can play a key role on that. And we're working very hard through RRF, investing in infrastructure in the logistic area to offer this opportunity and use the good location of Greece that made us be a nation of commerce throughout our millennium history, again in the 21st century. I think this is a very reachable goal. Of course, huge investment in the data area has already came. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Digital Realty are already investing in the country. Pfizer is already investing in the country, in pharmaceutical, in agriculture, and last but not least, the excellent relationship our government, our country has with countries like Israel, like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, like United Arab Emirates, like Bahrain, gives us the opportunity to attract significant investment from all this area, strengthen our relationship with all this area. You know that our Prime Minister and a big delegation was in Egypt 1 week ago signing the big contract for the cable that will unite Greece and Egypt in the electricity sector. We are building the data center cable from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to Greece, and various other big projects are in the process of transforming Greece to a very modern and very different country than you had it in your mind in the past. So I'm sending a clear message from here, dear Mr. Tsomokos, that we are open for business and we wait you to come. And of course, I want to say one more time that Delphi Economic Forum is a big supporter of our efforts. We will not be able to show to the international investment community the progress our country is doing and the effort our people is doing to change Greece if people like you didn't have the authority, the knowledge, and the expertise to organize such good events as what we are today, or the big Delphi Forum in Delphi, or the Delphi Forum in Toronto, or the Delphi Forum in Washington, the Delphi Forum wherever you go. I will come to you even to Alaska. So thank you very much, and I'm very honored being addressing to you today here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Adonis Georgiadis, our Minister of Economy, of Development and Economy, Development and Competitiveness. Dear Minister, thank you deeply for this extremely stimulating presentation. Of course, we are not prophets, but our birthplace is Delphi, and when time comes, we will consult the oracle about the political developments in this country. So anyway, with this, I would like to turn to George Handjinicolaou, the chairman of the Piraeus Bank, to chair the next panel. Dear Chairman, please, let us give him